Welcome to Your Need to Know. I'm your host, Catherine Reed, and today we're going to be talking with Judy Wetzel about the Welcome Home Reentry Program. Thank you so much for being here, Judy.
Oh, thank you for having me, Catherine. I'm really excited to get the message out. I'm really excited to be a part of Catholic Charities and the Welcome Home Reentry Program. It's funny because I never thought that I would get involved in the reentry program. It's something that I never thought
much about.
No, of course not. I never even had a hint of that. But well, let's talk about the program first. So you said
sure. So first of all, it's a program of the Catholic Charities, and yes, specifically the Archdiocese of Arlington.
Right.
And give us a little bit. How long has the program been around?
You know, it's a relatively new program, less than about a year.
Wow, that is very new.
It's very new, and I was shocked at how well it's going in such a short period of time, because it's doing very well. But it will do better if I can get some mentors out here to help me.
Because you've got people who are coordinating it, like Margot and Fred and Sally,
right,
are all involved in coordinating the volunteers and keeping the program going.
Right.
But this is a volunteer-run program, so
right,
without mentors, you can't help as many people.
Exactly. The program is important because it works with addicts that are alcoholic or drug-related coming out of jail, and it's helping these young people, well, some of them are older, but the clients coming out of jail, to reestablish themselves in society and try to have a network of a connection between the community that is out there that they're re-entering. And a lot of times parents cannot help anymore. They've helped and they're tired. And I think a mentor is someone who can hold the person accountable. They can also help them to have a connection, like to listen to them, to really understand what they're going through, and to be there to show them, as a role model, what they can and can't.
Well, as we said, being a parent, and you have been through this yourself, you try to provide unconditional love for your child, because that is what it means to be a parent. And I've got 3 of them too, so I know that you no matter how bad it gets or how bad they behave, right, you're never going to withdraw your love for them. But at what point are you enabling them? And I think that's where families get tired. And
they do. It's funny because the Oxford House is very important to me, and it is in partnership with Catholic Charities right now. And so people coming out of jail have to be able to have a home at the Oxford House in order to be in this mentor program. So what happens is that you probably are thinking, well, why are you so gung-ho on this program? What makes it important to you? Well, it's very personal, and if you don't mind, I'll share my story.
I think that would be important for our viewers to understand that this can happen to any family anytime.
Right. I had no desire to do this. My son, Billy, was 13 years old when he started using marijuana. And I thought, all right, well, marijuana, it can be a gateway drug. It can be a drug that will lead you to harder substances. But, kids are kids. They experiment, just like many of us did when we were younger. The point is that his drug addiction started at 13 with drugs, marijuana, and alcohol. And Bill and I, his father, tried really hard to get him help. He went through rehab. He went through counseling. He had people that talked to him, priests, everything that we could possibly think of to try to save him. But through high school, he used. Then he went to college and he used, and the drugs became increasingly worse. And along with that came jail and for misdemeanors, and there came different kinds of drugs, and there came lawyers, and so much stealing and things that we, his father and I, never really thought we'd ever have to imagine. Our home was a Catholic, stable, middle-class home where we loved our children, and never would I have thought that I would have a child that's a drug addict. So we never talked about it. It was
because
always,
there's a stigma,
yes,
which is part of the problem
stigma
with the rampant opioid crisis we have, is that families never shared, so no one knew years ago
right,
how rampant this was, how common it was, because it has been stigmatized.
Exactly. And my son he had good times and bad times, like a roller coaster, up and down. When he was good, it was great. When he wasn't good, it was terrible. So finally, his father got very sick. And at that time, our son was in remission. He was doing pretty well. Then his father had a heart attack and strokes and in and out of nursing homes, and it was very difficult. So in 2015, Bill died. So when Bill died, my son fell apart. And I said, okay, come, you can live in the house, but you have to have boundaries. You have to go to AA meetings. You have to do what you need to do to stay well. And he said, okay, Mom, I will. Well, that I could tell he wasn't doing well. So I asked him, I said, I think the best thing is for you to go to a rehab center where you can get some help, because I can't help you.
Right.
I can't help you. So he said, okay, I'll go. So he did, but with the stipulation that when he came out, he would go to an Oxford House. Now, an Oxford House is a place in Fairfax area that people go to that are trying to re-enter into the community, but have a nice, stable group of people that they work with that are going through the same problems. They're trying to stay clean and sober and work a life and network. So I thought, great, that's a good place for him, because I can't do it for him, and maybe someone else can help him. So he went to live in the Oxford House, but then he had to leave there because he had to go to jail because of a slew of misdemeanors that finally caught up with him. So last Christmas, he was in jail. And when he came out of jail on February 17th, he seemed like a different person. Like, not because jail rehabbed him, because
Right.
it didn't, but because he was so gung-ho on getting better. I'm going to be the man that I know I can be, Mom, and that you and Dad will be proud of. I'm going to really try hard. And it's not that he hasn't tried hard all this time. It's just, it's very difficult. So he came out. We bonded. We went out to dinner. We went bowling. He saw his nieces, his nephew. He bonded with his sister. We had such a wonderful month. It was a godsend. And then he says to me, I want to go to church. I want to go to confession and communion. And I was like, oh my gosh, a miracle he's given me. God has given me this miracle. But it wasn't the miracle I thought about, because I wanted him clean and sober, and I wanted him to have a life and a wife and children and that kind of thing. But he didn't get that. He went back to the Oxford House, and March 17th, he called me. He said, Mom, I'm watching the game on TV, the Gators, my beloved Gators, and eating pizza. And he said, you're going to pick me up for church tomorrow? I said, yeah, I'll be there. I'll be there. And he said, okay. Well, that night he died of an overdose. When I got the phone call, which was 4 days later because they didn't find him until later, I couldn't believe. They said William is deceased, and I just remember falling on the floor as a mother, and I'm sure all the mothers out there are understanding what I'm feeling right now.
Right.
And crying and just saying, it can't be true, it can't be true. I just talked to him.
Right.
But it was true, and he had died of an overdose, and my life just seemed to go into a blackness from there. So I'm thinking to myself, and you're all hearing me, and you're thinking, well, why are you back in working with addicts if this was so detrimental? Because I want my son to mean something. I want his life to mean something. I don't want him to just be a drug addict on the street that died and for no reason. And I feel like if I speak out about this, if I talk about it, if I can hit one mother's heart out there that maybe can connect with mine and say, my son is an addict, my daughter's an addict, I'm going to help them. Or maybe get some mentors out there to listen to me and want to come into the program to help. I feel like I've done my job, because I saw the advertisement in St. Leo's Bulletin, and I'm thinking, oh, I don't know if I want to be a mentor. I don't know.
Because you've never done it before, too, right?
Gosh, like never.
So how do you be a mentor? What does even involve, and how are you qualified, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking, I don't think I can do this. I mean, it's one thing to have a child that you love that's unconditionally, that's
right. But this is other people's children.
Yeah, something else. But I answered the call, and I told Sally, I said, okay, I'm here. I'm here. So she said, well, I'd like you to work in trying to get us mentors. We have only 20 mentors.
Right, and a lot more demand than that.
Right, and we have like 40 people we could take, but if we don't get the mentors, then we don't have the people. Now you're probably saying, well, how do you be a mentor? You know, what's qualifications? Well, first of all, a desire.
Right.
A huge desire to make a difference, not only in that person's life, but they might make one in yours too.
You hit on something very important, and that is the fact that, you know, people have more to give than they think they do. In your case, you didn't go looking for your life's mission, but your life's mission found you.
Right.
And that often happens when something comes along that you didn't expect and you suddenly realize, this is a thing I can do, and you can make a difference. And I know too, people who've lost their children don't want the memory of their child to be the worst thing that they ever did or the worst thing that ever happened to them. He was a whole person.
Right.
He had relationships and he had a life. And so I can understand you wanting to give back so that other addicts who are working so hard to claw back from their addiction.
And that's a great word, claw back.
They claw back.
Because you do. You can't imagine how many times you go out there and try to get a job and your background hits you in the face and they, oh no, we can't have you, you have a background.
Right.
So your job goes out the door. And yeah, maybe you can work a menial job, but it's not going to help you in Fairfax County.
No, can't live here.
No, so getting back to the mentors, you have to have a big heart. You have to want to do the job, and you want to listen to people, you want to help them. We ask that you give 6 months, you know, say, I'll give you at least 6 months of time. Out of that 6 months, 60 days would be with one mentee. You would work with them for 30 days right away, trying to get them settled, trying to get them maybe a job, help them go for a job interview, maybe go to the food pantry and get them food, maybe get them a suit from the thrift shop. Maybe just having lunch with them and saying, hey, how is it going? Have you been to your AA meeting? You know, this is important.
So you're talking about some very basic things, you know, so it ramps up. So you start out with very simple things, and I'm assuming that the training that is provided by all of these people at the Welcome Home Reentry Program takes a person who doesn't know how to do it and turns them into a mentor.
Right.
And this is something I want to delve into a little bit deeper. We're going to go to a break. So when we come back from this break, we are going to be talking with Judy Wetzel, and she is hoping that you will be inspired to be a mentor for people who are returning to our community who have addiction problems through the Welcome Home Reentry Program, which is part of the Catholic Charities. So join us after the break.
I surrender, I surrender.
All right, pal. Get ready for the day, buddy.
Hey, Dad. Hey, Dad. Do we have a gun?
What's up?
Do we have a gun?
Where's Tommy?
I thought he was with you.
No.
Jack.
Tommy?
Go get him.
Don't stop. Keep playing. Here we go. Here's the fun part.
Did you do this?
Great job.
Encouragement. Pass it on. A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
It's a big responsibility.
Oh, it's huge. I know, it's huge.
And the salary.
Oh my god, yes. I mean,
Right?
like, I was about to move in with my parents, and right before, so this saved me.
I really believe in you, you know?
Thank you. It's nice to hear that from someone.
These are cool. Did you, what did
Welcome back to Your Need to Know. I'm your host, Catherine Reed, and joining me today is Judy Wetzel, and she is talking with us about the Welcome Home Reentry Program. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you again. It's just such a joy to be here, really.
Well, I know you've mentioned that you found out about the program through the bulletin at St. Leo's, and this is a program of the Catholic Charities.
Right.
But you don't have to be Catholic to be a mentor.
No.
And not all of the mentees are Catholic either.
No, and so that's very important that you said that, because it is a Catholic organization that we have a partnership with the Oxford House. But the people in the Oxford House aren't necessarily Catholics, and they're not necessarily, some of them are not believers even. So that's not the prime purpose. The prime purpose is that when an addict comes out of jail, or an alcoholic, they have to have a connection with the Oxford House. They have to be able to say, I am going to have a place, a safe place, where I can live for a time, hopefully a time being, that they can get themselves situated, stand on their own 2 feet, have a job, get their car back, because many of them have no cars because they have too many fines and too many financial problems to get themselves back on their feet.
Yeah, same with driver's licenses too.
Yes.
Suspended driver's licenses where you have to pay the fines before you can get it back.
And in jail, you have to pay to be in jail.
Right.
So you come out of there with a whole bunch of bills, no money. I remember when I picked up my son from jail, we saw these kids coming out, or these people coming out, no coats. It's February, it's freezing, no coats. They came out and walked up to the corner, and how are they going to get home? I have no clue, because there's very little money involved. There's no transportation. So that's a very important part of mentoring, to be there at least initially in those 31st days, to help them to be able to re-enter and give them a safe haven. So they go into the Oxford House, where they have other people like themselves, and during that amount of time, they have to go to meetings every day. They have to make sure they stay on their program. The 12-step program is one of the only ways that you really can stay with the program to keep yourself sober and clean. And then you have a mentor that's not your family, so it's a little easier, maybe to talk to them, maybe to connect, because you don't want to hurt your family, and sometimes you do that. And this way you have sort of a person who's non-judgmental and accepts you for what you are, whom you are, and will help you through the rough times that you're facing in the next 30 days. That is, taking you to get a job. I mean, sometimes you need a ride to the interview. You need a suit, maybe something nice to wear since you don't have anything. There's so many things a mentor can do at this point in time to help them. And then hopefully after 60 days, they're situated enough that they have a job, that they're living at the Oxford House, they're paying their rent, and they are going to their meetings and on their way to hopefully leave there and go live somewhere else where they can be an asset to our community.
And that transition period really is so important, because they have to get stabilized.
Yes.
It's too easy for people to get out of jail and land right back into the situation where they were using before, without anything to kind of slow them down or stop them, because the craving, the whole aspect of addiction is that craving never goes away. It's the same with alcoholism. Once you're an alcoholic, you are always an alcoholic. You might be in recovery, you might be sober for 20 years, but you never stop being an alcoholic.
Exactly.
So you never stop working at it. And I think it's the same is true with addiction. And so having a mentor is so different, because the relationship is different from your family member.
Yes.
I mean, mentors care, but they also have to be somewhat removed from the situation if they want to help the person that they're mentoring to be successful. There's got to be a little bit of tough love in there.
Yes.
A sense of accountability there.
And sometimes it's hard for parents, because you want to help them, but there's a fine line between helping and enabling. Very fine line. But the most important thing that a mentor can do when they pick up their person from jail is to make sure that they go to meetings. Help them, encourage them. Because if you're not going to stay sober and clean, it doesn't matter if you have a house or food or if you have transportation. You're just not going to make it.
Yeah.
So it's an extremely hard thing, but I think that there's so many people like myself that has a wanting to do this for these people. Give them a second chance. Let's say you don't want to do this, you don't want to mentor, but you'd like to work behind the scenes. Well, we can use you there at Catholic Charities also to work behind the scenes in some of the things that Sally has people write or notes or bulletins or whatever. There's that need. There's also a backpack program where you go ahead and fill a service project, fill a backpack with needs like shampoo, conditioner, stuff like that, toothpaste, and we give that backpack to the boy, to the man or woman that comes out of jail to give them a head start on personal items that it's expensive to buy.
Right.
There's also a program where Fred Seymour comes into your parish and will talk to you about the Welcome Home program and talk to you about what happens and how it works and how the mentees are selected and so forth. And let's say you want to just drive them somewhere. You can give them an hour or so to drive them somewhere. We could use you to do that. That would be a wonderful thing to do. So anything that you're willing to do for this program, we'd accept also.
So it seems right now, because the main avenue of recruiting mentors seems to be parishes,
Right.
Catholic parishes.
Right.
So that's an effort that's well established. What
Right.
we need to do now, and what we hope to do through this show,
Yes.
is raise this up on people's radars who are not Catholics.
Right.
So, but I'm a Rotarian, and there's a lot of Rotary clubs in Northern Virginia, as well as Kiwanis and Lions clubs and JCs, and a lot of these service clubs do this kind of project, or they support this sort of effort. And so I'm hoping that service clubs around the area will also embrace the idea that their members can become mentors through the Welcome Home Reentry program.
That would be so awesome, because partnerships are the way to go. I mean, you have to have partnerships. You can't just, you're not just by yourself. I mean, I've been going to parishes and talking, so this is sort of exciting to be on TV and be able to get my message out there. But I really would like, I think the most important thing is that you're just a willing person who wants to give back, and you want to make a difference to somebody or something. And I think this look, when you think about it, we have an opioid crisis going
an
on.
enormous crisis.
We had about 58,000 people on the Vietnam, their names are on the Vietnam Wall. And this year alone, in 2018, we've lost more than that number in drug addictions.
I know, and then Virginia is doing their best to address the issue. I know our Attorney General, Mark Herring, is working hard on both prevention and figuring out the best course of action to keep these drugs off the street, out of our schools, and they are in neighborhoods. I mean, middle-class neighborhoods, as you well know.
Oh, yes.
This is not something, once upon a time, when people talked about, for instance, the crack addiction,
Right.
it was black people and it was a crime, and they were sent to jail. But now it's
Exactly.
very different. It's middle-class homes, it's opioids, and people are talking about the need for rehabilitation, and that's exactly, should be the response to drug addiction, not jail, and
No.
not being treated as a criminal,
Right.
but being treated as a person who has an illness, and that illness needs to be addressed and cured.
And cured. I don't know. I think the closest thing to cure for this would be, of course, the 12-step program.
And to stay with it.
And to embrace it.
Right.
My son, he went like a roller
Right.
coaster, embraced it some days, and then other days no. And so you really have to want to get well and stay well. And I think that's where the mentor comes in. A little phone call. Hey, how you doing?
Right,
Are
checking
you
in.
okay? Maybe we can have lunch. Would you like to have lunch and we'll just talk about things, how it's going? Are you having any problems? That kind of thing. Just sort of like, I'm a retired person, so I can be sort of a grandma type to
Right.
somebody. But there are people out there that maybe work part-time and they could be able to mentor. I mean, it's open to everyone that just has a heart that's willing to give back in this particular way.
So if people are interested, so now people are very interested, they're like, I would like to be a
I hope
mentor,
so.
tell me what to do. You, again, I think we have an email for Sally O'Dwyer.
Right.
And I think that's who you reached out to.
I did.
And so tell us what the process would be if someone were to email Sally and say, I heard about the program, tell me more about being a mentor.
Then Sally would explain to you that we're going to have on December 5th at 10 o'clock at Catholic Charities a workshop that will help you to learn more about addiction, to learn about the boundaries that are set, talk about the 12-step program so you are knowledgeable about that, and get you and tell you what it will entail for you to be a mentor. Like, you'll go, but you'll have quarterly meetings where you'll come back in and sit with some other mentors and talk about maybe some problems or maybe some things that are happening that are wonderful that you want to share. You'll also do reports, just a short report saying, hey, he's doing real well or she's doing real well. No, she's not, she can't find a job. No one will give her a job. And that brings me to something else. There are people out there, big companies, that might be willing to work with Catholic Charities to say, okay, I will give these guys a chance, a second chance. My company will try to, interview them and see if I can give them a job. That's
because
what
these
we're
people,
hoping to.
and I work with another reentry program too for women returning to the community. And one of the biggest things is these women have skills.
Yes.
Like there's a lot of reasons that they ended up in jail, and addiction in a lot of things like domestic abuse and violence and all kinds of things. But they have skills. They're accountants. They have worked in offices. They're HR people, right? But now they have to find a company willing to give them that second chance.
Right.
Because they have something to offer. And so often they're just eliminated right at that background check point.
Very often. I know of 2 guys that I'm talking to at the Oxford House right now. They're having a terrible time getting a job because every time they interview and they look good and, I
that's
think
right.
you're
We're going to make you an offer, right?
That's it. You're in. We hire you, and then a week goes by, 2 weeks, you don't get any answer because HR says, we did a background check, a thorough background check.
Exactly
You're
it.
not in. Well, what does that do to your self-esteem? You just decide, hey, they're never going to take me back into this.
Which is how people backslide into addiction when they feel hopeless. Hopelessness and despair has probably been the biggest driver of not only opioid addiction, but the increase in suicides as well.
Yes.
Suicides too, an enormous number of suicides, especially white men over 50, and hopelessness and despair. And then you look at our society and you look at our own local communities and you ask yourself, what more could we be doing?
Right. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about this program, because I feel like it really might make a difference. We might have someone come out of jail and then not return in 3 years, which is pretty much the norm.
Well, I think you've made an important point too. You may not be able to save everyone, but the one you save is the one that makes the most difference. And so I want to thank you for being here, Judy.
Thank you
so much. And I hope that our viewers out there will truly consider being a mentor through the Welcome Home Reentry Program. And this is what you need to know.